Or we can start by passing out the agenda.
We can do that, pass out the agenda and do some introductions.
Yes, yeah, that's a good idea. Are you facilitating? I'll step out.
I mean, if you want to, definitely all of you. Yeah, same thing, right?
We can.
Oh, how's that?
I think,
Well, Tana's gonna facilitate today.
we have, actually,
I
this
nominated
team is
you.
gonna facilitate today, so I've got next to it which parts.
Oh,
we should have,
hey,
and
look
then
at you.
Sarah has
this
as well.
organized. Thank you, Ellery. You're right.
And these name on there quite a bit.
Well done for taking last time I did, sorry.
Since it is 5 minutes after, and I think we do have a hybrid, make sure that you're talking loud. We do have the owl, it's brand new, so we're not sure,
We're doing good
we're doing good earlier, okay, so we should be doing pretty good, but just be mindful that you have people both on Zoom and in person. I will start. I am Tana Miller. I am the behavioral health coordinator here at Buffalo County Community Partners. My work involves all of the behavioral health, so everything from early childhood, social emotional development to adult behavioral health.
I'm Denise Senior, Executive Director of Buffalo County Community Partners.
I'm Ellery Butterfield, I'm the youth coordinator for the community partners.
And do we want to go on to Zoom? Michelle, do you want to start and then popcorn to the next person?
Yeah, hi, Michelle Tucon, Marketing Director here at Buffalo County Community Partners.
And
I'm Jason Owens. I'm the principal at the Handy Aram Center for Success. Hi, everybody.
I'm Jill Schubauer. I'm with Region 3 Behavioral Health Services.
This is Trevor Lee. I'm with the Development Council for Buffalo County.
Erin Small, Sixpence Childcare Coach with Kearney Public Schools.
thank you for all of you joining us from Zoom. And if you're okay, if the group's okay, we're going to record for a couple of members who are on the road today. Is everybody okay with that? Anyone not okay with that, I should say? All right, go ahead and hit record, Michelle.
Alex Hickey, Executive Assistant with Community Partners.
Wanda Fedorchik with Buffalo County Community Partners.
Good afternoon. I'm John Rademacher, a county court judge, one of 2 judges in Buffalo County that handle the juvenile court.
I'm Savannah Lyon with United Way.
Doug Chamberlain, Mid Plains, MST, multidisciplinary therapy.
Samantha Kime, Initial Assessment Supervisor with the Department of Health and Human Services.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here, both on Zoom and in person. Hopefully you all have a general sense of why you're here, because quite a few of you are new faces. Many of you are faces that have been with us for some time now. So hopefully we're able to take a look at the minutes and just some of the conversations that were happening prior to give you just a little bit of context. This leadership group has been working for a while now. They're called the Youth and Adolescent and Children Work Group. Here's some meetings here. And really this group has been geared towards setting the agenda for our larger collaborative group. And our larger collaborative group, I'm sorry, I was trying to pull up the short-term, long-term, but I never did find it.
Oh, yes, we can pop it in there.
Yeah.
Pop it in there.
Right now. But this group really was looking at building relationships with existing parent groups. That was really our short term. So who's already out there working with parents? Where are they? How do they access resources? What are the resources that they're giving to parents? Our long-term goal is really to know where our parents are accessing those points in the community, right? Are they able to access the resources? Are they easily understood? Do they have the proper training, education, and support systems that they need in the community? If they don't, who are they going to? Where are they getting it? As our friend Erin Small always says, where's their village? Who's their village? Do they have a village? So that's really why we are here today. We do feel as though each avenue that we've taken with the larger group, we've gotten stuck a little bit. And we think that's because there are others in the community that's doing similar work. For example, Through the Eyes of the Child project, we noticed that the conversations are very similar. Savannah, we've heard from Sarah, who emailed me, by the way, she's on her way, she's late. She had mentioned that you guys are also just this themes are so similar when we're talking about building up thriving children and families. And she was just concerned that we're not doing it together, right? We're still kind of, not intentionally, but we're still kind of in our silos. And so we wanted to come together today, talk about what you're doing, what are your purposes with the groups that you're engaging, and can we be helping you, or what does that look like? So that's why we're here today. Hopefully I didn't jump around on the agenda because I wasn't following along, but wanted to give you just a little bit of context as to why we were here. Actually,
So the pieces, you want me to jump in?
yes, please.
So pieces there that I think Tana can hand out to you, these are bound pieces. This really is the work of the work group. And so some of the things that we do, might have to have, Wanda, can you start with the collective impact page so you can see which one to start with? The one that explains collective impact.
Do you want the one that actually?
The ones with the arrows.
There it is.
Yeah, that one. So if you can flip to like maybe the third page in that packet where it shows a little bit of collective impact, the collective impact model. So overall, when we started the process of bringing people together, we wanted to talk about collective impact. And so within that collective impact piece, it's kind of like what Tana was saying. We really want to center this model in our work where we're all working together collaboratively in that collective impact model versus in isolation or in collaboration. And so you kind of read through what isolated projects look like and kind of read through that second section, and what we're really trying to do is an overall collective impact where we can see and point to the work together, that we all see each other in the work, that we're using similar shared measurements, that we can name the vision that we're all working toward. So I do believe that we see there's groups kind of coming together in different formats. And I don't know that it's isolated impact right now. I really think it's great work happening. We just may not be able to truly see how we're all connected yet. So I think that's really the space we want to hold this conversation, to have some more conversation around that. So that's collective impact. The next piece that we just wanted to review is results-based accountability, and it is the next page. So if we go one more page in, results-based accountability asks 3 questions. And so this is the second model of the work that we're doing. The 3 questions that we ask in our work is, how much are we doing? How well are we doing it? And is anyone better off? And so I think an example of that we've used through the pandemic, when we had food boxes, we were bringing in semi-loads of food boxes, and we were distributing 1,500 food boxes every week. So we could count the number of food boxes we were delivering. We began to ask questions: is this the right time of day? Are people truly able to access during work to get the food boxes? We thought, well, we can do this better. Let's have the employer come pick up the food boxes, take them back to their employer. So how well do we do it? We started to modify that a little bit, right? And do that work better. And then we started asking ourselves the third question: is anyone better off? And so I think that's where we missed the mark. And again, not that we didn't do really good work as a community, we did great work. We handed out over $1 million food boxes in the community. But to ask the question, is anybody better off today, and are they food secure because of the food boxes we gave them? We missed that piece, right? We missed finding out when they were coming in to get that food box, is there any other supports they needed in the community that we weren't able to kind of figure out, or provide other resources, or better understand what truly that family needed to be food secure. So those are some of the questions we've been asking ourselves as we do this work. Some of the questions of the work group have been, we do great work in the area of Good Beginnings. We do great work in Sixpence. We do great work in Rooted Relationships and Head Start. I'm sure your MST have great things happening, but we don't necessarily know how well those pieces support the other piece to really truly show that a family or an individual is better off because of all those programs in the long run. So do we know that children who went through Head Start are not in the juvenile justice system? Is that a program that truly prevented children from entering juvenile justice? If it did, how did we know which pieces of that were really important for our community to gain, and what did we do really well to ensure that we continue to do that good work? So it's just looking at what we do really well and starting to ask a little bit deeper question, like, is anyone better off in our community? And that's the model that we've been centering our conversations around. So we wanted to start with that overview of the YAC. It stands for Youth, Adolescents, and Children. It's a work group of the overall collaborative, and that there's a whatever you want on the actual graphic. Is that, I don't know which page. Oh,
Is that what
it's up
you're
on the
looking for?
screen too. Thank you,
It's just
because I
the
bet
next one,
people
yeah.
on Zoom probably don't know what page we're on. Thank you very much. So right there, you see a picture of the overall community wellbeing collaborative. And then within that collaborative, that lavender petal, we call it, the children and youth, is a work group. So that's the work group that's been coming together in the community. The overall impact that the collaborative is holding in the center of that is reducing youth from entering or re-entering this preventable system. So that could be hospitalization, suicide, injuries, assaults, neglect, abuse, some of those things that we feel could be prevented in the community as we all work together. So that's the first impact statement. The second impact statement is that our resources are easily found and understood in our community, and that families are able to connect to that. If you kind of hold that impact statement a little bit closer to your heart today, because I think that's going to be a little bit more meaningful to the conversations that we're moving forward with, is how do we ensure that resources are easy to understand and accessible for all families? So within this model, you see over to the right-hand side, the full collaborative. Those are all the cross-sector participation. That's why we're inviting you to this table. We purposefully kept this a little bit smaller because we wanted to have a purposeful, smaller conversation about alignment. The steering committee is kind of the what do I say, the funnel to help in the support that the collaborative needs, and then down below is the backbone support from Buffalo County Community Partners. So if you're familiar with other communities that have community well-being, or Nebraska Children and Families, Community Wellbeing, Community Response, Connected Youth Initiative, we would be that backbone fiscal agent of Buffalo County Community Partners to lift up that work. So that's the models, that's the structure that we've been having this conversation in, and I think I'm handing it off to Ellery next.
So then, as we were working with the work group, the children and youth work group here, it kind of became clear that people were saying things, but we weren't all exactly on the same page. So we wanted to pull together, this is just a little visual. So if you're talking to somebody about this, or when you go out and talk with your circles, this is a quick little, this is who we are, this is what our vision is right now. So we have our questions here on this side. I'm gonna pull up our, maybe. Yeah, oh, I see what happened. There we go. It disappeared. So our questions on the side, right there in the center, it's a target visual, right? So our why. The focus is to improve outcomes for children in the greatest years of brain development. 90% of brain development takes place during those first 5 years of life. So that's our why. Who, we're going to be engaging parents, youth, families, and caregivers, the people with that most lived experience, the people that are going to be connecting with the youth the most during those years of development. Our how are we going to do this work? We're going to have family engagement partners and agencies who provide direct services to children, youth, and families partner with these agencies to build relationships with the parents, caregivers, and families, again, so that we are reaching them, the people that are working directly with the youth most often. And then what is the YAC work group? As we said, the YAC group work will align our collective work to increase access to resources and reduce entry into systems that are preventable. So this is just for you guys to take, and when you're reviewing this, I know we're kind of giving you a little bit of a drinking out of the fire hose right now, but hopefully this keeps it simple and organized for you, so.
I think this visual is helpful because we have been talking about this, we as in the previous YAC leaders and some of you that have been with us for the beginning for at least a year now. And so we're kind of at this point where we're ready to move forward and we are looking for more collective, I guess, a collective way forward. And we want to make sure that we're doing it with our partners and with our community and not doing it on our own, because that is our goal, is to do it collectively, with a collective impact model. So as Ellery explained, all these pieces, that's the conversations that we've been having around the table. This isn't our thoughts that we just put on this paper and are sharing with you. These are the thoughts that have been coming out of these meetings that we've had with our stakeholders in the community.
And we probably find anywhere from 50 to 60 people around the table coming into this conversation. Some of them are on the IOA board, and some of them have been coming around through the Eyes of the Child conversations too. So there's definitely duplication as far as partners sitting at those tables, but there's also different people that each of us are bringing to the table too. So just to kind of give you an example of, and I think you guys through the Eyes of the Child have been bringing 30, 40 people to the table as well. Is that right? Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna get down to really why we're here, and then I'm gonna hand it over to Sarah a little bit, but our long-term goal really is knowing where parents access resources in the community. How are they getting what they need? Where are they getting what they need? So out of that conversation that we've had has been this idea of a parent engagement center. And it first really came out as, we're not necessarily talking brick and mortar, but maybe we are talking brick and mortar. We haven't had that conversation yet. But really a place where parents can go, advocate for each other, find the resources that they need, and just have that peer-to-peer support. So I don't know, Sarah, you want to kind of.
And I apologize, I'm Sarah Prater, I was late, got stuck in another meeting. I'm the director of preschool and elementary education for Kearney Public Schools. And just recently finished up my first year here in Kearney. Have been very fortunate to be on several boards through this last year. I've landed myself on boards, United Way Board, part of this work group here at Buffalo County Community Partners. I'm on the Friends Mentoring Board. I'm on the Junior Achievement Board. So I have been very fortunate to really start to develop that 30,000 foot view of Kearney, Nebraska. I think what has been super awesome for me is, wow, there are a lot of resources in this community. So many resources, however, that sometimes I don't think people are really aware of them, including school social workers, including school counselors, including school principals, including parents. And when in my previous experiences, had a lot of interaction with the Multicultural Coalition in Grand Island, which was really intended to start out to just really help families that were coming into Grand Island that had language barriers and all of those things. And over the last 15 years, I think it's really transpired into a community engagement center. It's not just for families that are immigrating, it's for all families that are being connected with resources. And so I feel like that model has really served the community of Grand Island well. Families are new to the community, they're showing up there, they're getting enrolled in school. They're needing access to a dentist, they're getting connected. Those services aren't necessarily provided at that engagement center, but they're connected with those services out in the community. Mental health services, medical services, whatever the case may be, preschool. I feel like from, looking at it from the school's perspective, we really put our families on a chase around town to find the resources that they need. And I just think that, again, Kearney is so fortunate to have a lot of resources, but I think sometimes even the resources don't know that there's that same resource being offered because nobody's aware of what everybody's doing. And so when we were sitting here talking, I just thought, gosh, I just feel like we have the resources. I don't know what more we could offer families in regards to resources necessary to be successful. Really the piece that's missing is that cohesiveness and kind of having a quarterback to connect those families with what they need. And I think that really can come together in some sort of a family engagement center where, you know, it's accessible, they're coming and again, getting connected with the school. They're getting connected with all the things that they need right there. And it's that one person, hey, I went here, this worked out well, but then they said I might need to do this. Okay, I'll help you get there. It's that one person, that one connection that can really help connect them to all the great things that Kearney has to offer.
Do they function then as a, I don't want to say a caseworker, but for lack of better terms, like a social worker or a caseworker kind of?
I honestly, I don't know how they transpired, but I think at the time, no. They were just really a person that was knowledgeable of all the services and organizations. I'm sure as times transpired, they have that service available, and as an option. But I think when they first started, their biggest concern was just getting people that can translate the languages. And so, at the time, they did have social work options, but I don't think those were the main employees by any means. But I can see that being a benefit.
So like, kid gets involved in the juvenile justice system. Paperwork comes in English, in the mail. You go there,
Yeah,
please help me understand what this is.
yes,
I get bed bugs, working with a family. I don't know how to get bed bugs,
right,
because it's stuff at Walmart don't work.
yeah. All the things.
I'm a hoarder. I
Right,
need to clean up my house.
yeah, let's get you connected with some resources.
Science guy.
So United Way has 211, which should functionally be that if the inputs were in place. Like if people had the resources on 211.
And 211, I think is a good, I mean, we talked a lot about that. That's, I mean, kind of why Tana had said that. But I think at the end of the day, I think the most impactful is gonna be a person.
A person.
I think it's gonna be a person. I think that would be a good option, if they could make the in-person, and I think we still need to get that out there. But I think the biggest impact is just gonna be, because I feel that what's happening is that in some instances, they're using the school as a hub, which is great. It's great, that's what we're kind of here to do. But I don't know that we're staffed.
But not always. I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of families that aren't involved with their system.
It's true.
So.
It's true, because some of our buildings don't have a social worker in them. And so our social workers are really the liaisons to be able to provide those resources.
And the social workers get caught up dealing with the top 1% of problems.
Right.
And then kids who, a dyslexic kid gets stuck in the dust.
Sure,
And eventually he decides to become the bad kid because he doesn't want to be stupid kid.
sure.
Well, and I've noticed a lot of times social workers don't know what the resources are because they're
Yeah.
so busy.
Right.
You know, I mean, they'll refer a family to like Compass or Boys Town where that's inappropriate. That's not
Or just,
a functional way to go.
So I think everybody's
Yeah.
just trying to do their best, right? Everybody's just muddling through, trying to do our best. And again, people are seeing needs and more needs and more needs, and so they're providing those services. But the missing component is that we have no way to effectively and organize
Referral.
that.
I think
Yeah.
referral.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
make your Rolodex of
I do want to just take a pause too and ask those that are on Zoom. I know sometimes when we're in person, we don't always stop to just ask if there's questions or comments that you have from Zoom land. So we'll just pause and let you share. Any comments on what we've shared so far? Go ahead, Trevor, I see you.
Yeah, I'll make a
unmuted.
comment just because I have to leave soon. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
I got too many screens in my world and microphones, and so what myself and I think every other economic developer in Nebraska is like, where do we fit into this early childhood wellness development, family services picture? Traditionally, like, we've made the argument to throw our weight behind these kind of initiatives on workforce, and that's a very safe space to be. But generally, like, just community wellness too, I think it falls in that bucket. So I don't know what our role is, but we appreciate being at the table, and we're always happy to use our platform to put our weight behind things that matter like this. So not sure I can contribute anything to the conversation today, but just thank you for the invitation, and I'm here. to be helpful as I can be.
Thank you, Trevor. Jill, Jason, Aaron, any other comments, thoughts?
Our social worker's a rock star. I have to give her 2 thumbs up because we have Morgan at Bright Futures and she does a phenomenal job, but I know that that's not always the case, that they all know the resources, but and I'm having a hard time hearing all the questions, so I might not have heard everything either.
Also, Erin, if there's any time that you guys aren't able to hear very well, just use the chat and I can re-clarify what was said or anything like that too, so let me know. I also did want to share yesterday or Sunday, excuse me, UNK hosted a community forum on immigration. Martha hasn't been able to join us yet, but the youth advisory board attended that, and the Kearney Public Schools student body president is one of our YAB members. Samantha stood up and shared that her biggest takeaway from the community forum was that that we need a place in the community where these families are connecting, because it can't always be the schools. And when we don't have those places where families are connecting, that's when we see crime rates go up. That's when we see, families not having access to food. That's when we see kind of those silos of even communities, and we're not as well connected here. So it's something that youth are asking for too, and teenagers. Maybe it's something that teenagers are excited about. Come on. Yeah.
Well, back to the purpose of bringing you all together too. We wanted to share what the conversations have been over the last year. We have had just some hiccups. We've been trying to get the parent voice to lead this work because we really felt let's not build it without their voices. And it's been a little bit challenging to do that. And so I think it's either the way we've set the table for the space or the communication hasn't been clear, but it's just been challenging, more challenging than we thought it would be. So the last time we all got together to decide what our agenda for our next meeting should be, Sarah's like, let's go to what we want to build. Let's start talking about what this end goal is and find out who else in the community is interested in this. Is it time to start launching something like a family engaged community, whether it's a center with bricks and mortar, or if it's just a combined effort to how we coordinate for children and youth. So I will stop there. I don't know, Judge, maybe you haven't shared much too. I want to give you a chance to poke at it or give your reaction as well too.
Sure. So through the eyes of the child team is just kind of restarting. I think they were active maybe about 5 years ago, roughly. So we're getting it restarted. My vision for the team is to fill gaps where we see a gap and try to fill it in a limited way. But we have had a lot of people come to those meetings, which is awesome. Surprising as to how many different little pieces there are. As a juvenile court, I rely on the department. I think the department is the go-to as far as everything needs of parents in the court's view. It's a very legalistic view, but that's kind of the view we have, is the department is the big umbrella. They coordinate everything for these parents with their needs. So it was just, like I said, it was really surprising that there are all these little pieces throughout the community, and how they all coordinate. I have no idea. And they probably aren't. They probably little overlaps here and there. Everybody wants to do good, of course. So we're just kind of getting our feet set as far as what we want to do. And at our last meeting last week, the team decided to try to address 2 issues, one being truancy. And I don't know what that means. I mean, they're going to obviously look at little bits and pieces and figure out how to, perhaps, help our community with the, truancy issues. I say community, Buffalo County, all the Kearney, Amherst, Shelton, Gibbon, Pleasanton, all of them. And then another portion is we're talking about parent, family mentors, and maybe that is somebody at this family engagement center that they go to, and there's a mentor there that engages with the family and walks through with them what resources are out there and helps them. If that's the way the team's gonna go, and like I said, we're just starting talking about this. Or whether it's more court focused, that this mentor is just gonna help the parents that are involved in the court system and try to walk them through that process. I don't know where the team's gonna go. I know they're looking at programs in Iowa and Washington State. I know the legislature was talking about parent advisors. I don't think that bill went anywhere. So that's kind of the court's perspective, is we're just,
See,
what can we do to help?
and what all of you described is what multi-systemic therapy was meant to bring in. And like I was a therapist for 10 years. So 15, 16 years ago, when I came on, I feel like we were used more in a preventative way. Over the last 6 or 7 years, the court system, and you probably know this, kind of has us slotted as the last ditch effort. And what we feel as providers is when it's there, it's like, that's the dumpster fire. I don't know how, it's like too late. So we beg diversion, HHS. But then the problem is, especially in Grand Island, is there's such a demand for the kids whose hairs are on fire, and these guys take a back seat. And then, of course, we have therapists shortage everywhere. There's a shortage everywhere. Can't even go to McDonald's. So
Your population is 13.
12. It's so all over the world, MST is done. 12 to 17 is what the numbers are based off of, but because Nebraska, the 18 are adults, yeah, we include them. And
Is it a peer led? No, okay.
so how it works is, okay, you got the team on the bottom, 4 people on a team, the supervisor, me, then there's an expert, I know it's ridiculous, an MST expert. And then, so we all review each other. And so above the expert is another coach, and then another coach, and then they try to keep us in line with A, best practices, and B, we live by these 9 principles, like positive and strength focused, and just certain things that we try to teach parents, like continuous effort. You just don't fix them, and then you got to keep doing it over time. It doesn't just fix itself. But like truancy, like I was out at the end of summer, I'm like, guys, get us your truancy kids. And they come back to me and say, they're not bad enough for you. But our criteria says any kid on probation and, or on the path to, essentially, like if it's criminal type behavior, then it qualifies. Now, we've always been a higher level of care, so there has to be a level of failure in like outpatient and other things, maybe Region 3's struggling with them too. So there's always been a higher level of care, but really any kid on that path is an MST kid. But.
So it's an in-home therapy, so they come like 3 times a week into the home to work on skills and also help gather like resources from the community into work with that family to help them strengthen up to be able to be better off.
It's very systematic. You run through and you try to figure out everything from like what is contributing to this behavior, every single thing. Kid's not going to school. He's not sleeping at night. He's on his phone at night. He's not on the proper meds. There's no parent in the house in the morning to get him up and take him to school. So you try to check off every box systematically. Then you reevaluate to see, did it work? Oh, no, it didn't. Why not? Oh, because we don't have a backup plan, so we have to bring in Uncle Jerry to do that. So it's, and And I just would like to see it be used more proactive or
It is
preventative.
an evidence-based program, and it is part of the financial reform, the child welfare reform that's coming out. So there could be potential federal funding for individuals that do the referral at the beginning, so like a school or whatever.
My,
But the problem is it's going to be a reimbursement, not a we pay for the service. So the community providers are gonna have to pay for MST up front and then get the reimbursement.
and MST's been here over 20, I don't know, Jill might be able to tell you, but over 28 years, somewhere around there.
Is there, so my question too, and actually this conversation came up through the eyes of the child as well, is sometimes we focus a lot of our efforts, especially in juvenile justice, a lot of the funding is 12 and older. But we're seeing that we need evidence-based programming or whatever, maybe even more intense, younger and younger. So is there something comparable or that works in tandem with MST, like for younger ages as well? More preventative services?
Not, the data is based on longitudinal studies for kids 12 to, so that's why, that's our sweet spot. I don't have, I'm not aware of anything else. I mean, they have the voice count as an ecological model, but I don't know if they're specific to.
So yeah, they do, the ecological model encompasses IMP and INR. However, you have to, the problem with those two is you have to be in the court system. And for some families, that's not appropriate.
So you technically don't have to be in the court system, but the referral has to come from the department and the department pays for that.
Right.
So we have families that work on an on-court basis and we do something like IFP, intensive family preservation, and it's 6 weeks, it's 8 hours a week. But then kind of our higher risk families, we are looking at something like FCT, family-centered therapy, which is going to be a 6-month program because we know they're gonna need that longer support, but that's something that's paid through by the department. So a parent could just go and say, hey, I'm struggling, can I have this service?
I think, I'm gonna come back here to this piece too. As far as a long-range plan for the community, I think we really just want to hear from all of you around the table. Does this make sense? Does it align with the work that you are hearing in the community? We don't own this. It's really a collection of voices in the community. Are we hitting the mark with what could potentially be a long-range goal that we all see ourselves in this work? And if that's the case, then I think we start to figure out who's doing what as far as the sweet spot, right? We know through the eyes of the child, they're gonna be looking at truancy, and I thought I heard you peer support. Did I hear that or not? Mentors, okay.
I'm hearing Mid-Plains Center talk a lot about that in the Grand Island area too, as part of their growth. Not sure where they're at in the timeline, but we're talking people who are coming to Mid-Plains and they have lots of trouble, and so we assign them, I don't know what we call it, a peer support person, and they go in and try to be the stopgap to get us to MST or whatever else is needed.
And so you could see the work of Mid-Plains in this.
Yeah, I
This
think
vision.
Tanya, who said that you, Tanya?
Yeah.
I think that'd be worth it.
So I think that's kind of what we're asking is if you see your work in this space, is it broad enough that you could point to it and say, this is the space we're in and we're working in together as a community to move toward, we have to define what this family engaged community is, but we're all trying to figure out what are the pieces that we're plugging in, and we can point to through the eyes of the child and say, these are the areas you're working in, we can point to Mid-Plains and say, this is the area you're
You
working
probably
in.
should be talking to somebody more important than me.
Well,
They're very
you're
much,
doing a great job.
they're very much talking about expanding and building, because the crisis stabilization unit, and what do we do with the youth that are coming out of GIPS? Because a lot of times, let's face it, those kids that they're saying, I'm gonna kill myself, they just don't wanna do their homework, and then we're trying to, then it becomes a behavior issue, and then they're too young for MST, so what do we do with them?
And then I think the question becomes for all of us, how do we track overall outcomes to know that we're all as a community improving overall outcomes of the children and families. And I think United Way, you're also kind of, I don't know if it's true to say that you see this work too in alignment and you kind of trying to figure out your lane. Is that fair to say?
That's exactly right. You said something I wanted to follow up. I guess one question that I have though is like, so we have professional services that are working for with these families who are in extreme crisis. And I met with Mitch, Ivy from Grace Fellowship, because he's very much in tune with the community and what's going on with them. One thing he said to me, which was just very, very good, was that the biggest issue he sees in our community right now is the need for connection. And ultimately, there's like a breakdown of community where some of these things, like people don't actually need a therapist to come in. They need a friend, they need a neighbor to show up. So are there ways that we can identify those issues or help bring the community together a little bit more? And then my second point is the problem, do we have data for the problem? Because it would be logical, if there's data for the problem, then there should be data for the solution, right?
So I'm gonna ask in the first part of what you were saying, do you see some alignment with the second arm of what Through the Eyes of the Child are doing as far as the connection and the mentoring? Do you see that alignment?
Yes, when I was at Compass, that was something that I really thought would be really cool to do, and that's part of tier 2 of Care Portal. I talked to somebody from your office and I remember what it was. Yes, about that tier 2 support, which would be very much like community based. United Way, I don't necessarily know that that would be like our lane. Maybe, I don't know what it would look like. But yeah, along those lines, but not necessarily professionals.
Well, what MST likes to do is build a network of family. I mean, they did a study on a inner city thing, and what they did, they rallied all the, I don't know if anybody's ever seen the Allen Iverson 20-30, the documentary, basically. Everybody knew Allen Iverson was special, so the whole community kept him out of that, the gang involvement, and that MST has done longitudinal studies about, inner city who did similar things for their children and kept them out of trouble.
Well, one of the things we think we can offer, and just talking on behalf of the backbone of Buffalo County Community Partners, one thing we would like to be able to offer is being able to help people see the different pieces that are coming together. So being able to communicate to the community, if this is your space and this is work you want to be doing, then here's this is the space and the things you're wanting to do, here's the work that's happening there. Because the way for us to start coordinating, if we all agree that we see ourselves in here, that's my first question today. I'm gonna keep asking that. Do we all see ourselves in this work? Have we missed the targets? Have we missed it in some way? Maybe you need to actually take this back to your boards and your organizations.
And Chase Fransel is our new CEO. So this is what they're talking about. They want to grow. Okay. They want to be involved and stuff. So I think.
Perfect. And maybe we can get some contact information from you.
Sure.
How to connect with him too. Or
sure.
You can do
I see him tomorrow. I can take these in.
That'd be fantastic. And just have a conversation with them and then maybe follow up with me with an email would be great.
Okay.
If you're willing to do that.
And Savannah, to answer your second question.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't get to the second part. Thank you.
I just, because some of the conversation was purposefully family engagement center. And that's where you would bring together groups of like people that you would create those social events, you would create those social opportunities. You would, I don't know, maybe Al-Anon is what's coming out of the family engagement center. There's an Al-Anon group, maybe there's a parents of kids who have oppositional defiant disorder, kids who have ADHD, whatever.
Like support groups?
Lots of support groups. I mean, I can see that being a case, like, again, going back to the Multicultural Coalition, that was one of the largest benefits, was that they helped those people build a community within themselves.
And that
was one of
and
the
a lot of
biggest-
space for it.
Yeah.
And that was something that was an important piece. I'm glad you said that, because when we asked the youth advisory board members at the beginning of the year, what do they want? And then again, yesterday when Sam was sharing from the community forum, they keep using the word celebrate. We want a place where families are celebrated. The United by Culture Festival in Lexington, it's just a place where communities are celebrating, but now we also have Two Rivers is going down there and they're getting vaccine information, they're getting fit sports screenings, they're getting brain injury screenings.
And their turnout is good?
And their turnout
It's
is
sustainable?
massive, and the community is much more connected. I mean, just being very blunt about it, there wasn't a lot of, like interracial interactions and things like that. The migrant immigrant communities weren't feeling as connected, and now we're building these partnerships there, they're building these partnerships, and we're seeing good outcomes because of it in the families and for the students. And I think that that's key, that families want to be celebrated, because, yeah, we don't always need a therapist, sometimes we just need a friend, and yeah, I think that's gonna be big.
Yeah, I was at Families Cares thing in May, and this really stuck out to me. I heard these two moms talking, I think their kids had like autism or something, and they said, like the moms were saying, I am so lonely, it is completely unbearable. I'm gonna go to this speed dating friend thing at the Cup because I am so desperate for a friend, and it just like broke my heart.
Well,
Like,
and
it's horrible.
if you have an autistic kid, let me look, is this normal? Like, this kid did this today, ran around with his pants off, he says, we'll do that, is that normal, or is that sexualized behavior? You know, that is something that comes up. You know what I mean?
And Ellery has pointed out that, Jill wanted a minute to talk. So Jill, it's your floor.
Okay, sorry. I don't need the whole floor. Just give me one little, brick.
All right, you get 1 minute and the timer starts now.
Okay. No, I like the discussion that is happening. I think it just solidifies what you had brought to us as far as a family engagement center. I've been with Region 3 for 25 years, and we consistently get phone calls, which is great, from families or providers of how to meet families' needs. But it's not all inclusive. People are calling Region 3 because the last part of our name is behavioral health services. So we're missing a lot of families that need connections to services and supports out there. I know we are. Some of the discussion around 211, we do have resources available, 988, 211, within our own agencies. We have those resources, but there isn't a face-to-face person that's for anybody to come in and talk to, regardless of their eligibility criteria. And I think this would be great. I think listening to somebody's story and hearing what their needs are embedded in that story is much different than them calling or looking up online for a specific need, because that may not be the only thing they need, or it might not be the thing that's going to meet their need. But someone to listen to their story and hear what those needs are that are embedded in that story, I think would be fantastic. So that was kind of and I think, you guys talking about the services that are out there as far as IFP, MST, Families Care, that's exactly why we need a person or a center that would be able to navigate families to those services, because we can all sit around the table for 25 years and educate each other on what services are available in our community, and then we have change in staff and we start all over again. So that's tough. So yeah, I think this would be a great idea. The thing that I do kind of want to throw out, we have Family Engagement Center in here. We've looked off and on throughout the years about also a place for young people as well. So would this also be inclusive of, a 16, 17, 18-year-old coming in and saying, I need whatever, and they can, even though they're not an adult, they can either leave with some resources or be hooked up to some resources that they're eligible for at their age. or maybe encourage them to bring their parent in and help them fill out the forms that's needed to start therapy, you know, whatever that might be. So that would be the only addition I would ask to you guys to think about, is also thinking about our young adult population. Okay, that was, I think, 60 seconds. I'll stop now.
You did a fantastic job, Jill, thank you. Well, our time is up, and so we'll kind of think about some next steps. I think what we were looking for, if I could speak, I think is where Sarah was heading, is there interest in having more conversations around this? Do you see yourselves in this work, or there's some adjustments that need to be made? I shouldn't say yourselves, the body of work that you're trying to organize and collect. Do you see that in this space? Does it align? If it doesn't align, what do we need to take back to that work group to have a better understanding of what needs to be adjusted? And then I think we can start aligning these pieces into data tracking and what are we all trying to work on together. So there's some alignment to that. Is there anything else you want to share?
I don't. I think I think there's just so many resources. United Way in particular, I was blown away, with their partner agencies. But then as I started to get to know those partner agencies, that's just the question that kept coming up was, but how do these people reconnect with those resources? How do they know that they're out there? And United Way does as much as they can to advertise, but that's not their role, right? Marketing and advertising necessarily for these partner agencies is their role, but connecting families, like come to United Way and we'll connect you, and that's just.
We
not
actually
their
do a
role.
lot of that.
Probably by nature. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just how this is gonna work.
Yeah.
But is that really the role of United Way? And as a board member, I would say no. I think that our role is really to continue to provide those community resources. And again, no organization is gonna turn a family away. We're all gonna support those families as best we can, schools included. But is there a better way? Because there are other agencies outside of United Way that are offering a lot of great services as well.
So maybe we should ask the question a little differently. What support would you need from Buffalo County Community Partners or from the work group to help you with where your work accomplished that you see coming together? Question for everyone. Is there anything else that you're needing or wanting or to hear more about?
I would say for me, like the data. So, which I feel like you sent me the data in the meeting essentially, but so what does that look like? What do the problems look like when you look at the data? So we can then identify like what is the problem? What are people experiencing? So that we can kind of extrapolate what strategy we're gonna have.
Perfect. I think we can help with that actually. We're rolling out new data right now, and then we are going back into all the Buffalo County schools next month, and doing the next round of surveys. We do that every 2 years. So we're a little behind always in what the data comes out. So we're just now kicking out the data from the previous year, and then we're going into the schools this year. So that data is hot off the press and just coming out. And it's really good data, and we're trying to put it in bite-sized pieces. So it's not like the 200 pages of results. And we ended up actually just giving it out to all of the parents at Urbana Public Schools at their night where they brought the parents together and had a really big conversation with the parents. So there's some pilot pieces that we're kind of pulling together with that data, but that's something we could do. So thank you for sharing that. Other things we could be doing to be helpful?
I think also surveying the professionals that are in colleges that are trying to serve these families.
That's what I think about too, is it's hard to find people nowadays.
Well,
You
right.
write cheap.
And I think as far as the data, I think where I started to gain data, if you will, was the anecdotal data, just having conversations of, it's just a rat race. It's a rat race around town to get connected with what I need. And I think if you surveyed school personnel who work with families in need, you would start to hear that.
You're just essentially, how do we streamline
Yes.
all this information? Create a Google search that I do this and this is where you get over.
Because then.
Or like
because
a
I-
librarian, where is this book? And they take you to where the book is.
Yes.
We do have a premise, through the conversations that we've been hearing, that, versus trying to put it all out there for parents, that we really try to find the key areas where parents should start. And really heavily promote those spaces, and that is 211, the family helpline, 988, and MyLink. Just making sure that every family has that in hand, so they have a place to start. Then we've given some consideration as to what are those other maybe networking places where you would go, like the HHS or the Jubilee Center or your school counselor. Just to make sure that they're very knowledgeable of what all those resources are.
Well, and the other thing, like if you come across somebody, this might not be relevant to what you just said, but you might not know that you gotta qualify financially with the region. Well, but wait a minute, I got this need, I make too much money, why do I get punished for that, you know?
That's when you need that person,
And you call
right?
Wanda.
That's when you
Wanda
need the
takes
person.
care of it.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about some
Hoping
of the
you know
work we
that,
do.
yeah.
Yeah, there is some navigation pieces too that we can offer. Well, I think hopefully we've met some of your expectations. I think there's probably a lot of conversation that can continue. We wanted just to talk a little bit about what the work group's about. Ask if you feel like the community's ready to start having this type of conversation about the end, over the long range goal piece.
I would be curious to see if there's any individuals from our local churches that would be willing to be a part of this. We have a lot of families that may not be religious, but they will go to a church and pick up a bag of groceries or diapers. We also have Press On Ministry. They actually have a youth center, and Preacher Jim is an individual that has lived experience with a lot of families that we work with. So he might be a beneficial person to have around this table and already has a facility that teams, I think he serves over 100 kids, 75 families, I think is what his last update on his website said. But he does an after-school program, he has a bus program for those kids to get to his center. He works with those parents every day. I mean, that's an opening right there, so. Just throwing it out there. Preacher Jim, that's all I know.
Jim Wilson.
Yeah,
Jim Wilson and Press On Ministries, yeah.
so, and I know they
Very
just got a
passionate.
new facility, so it's big, bigger than the last one.
They did, where's it at?
Really?
What is it?
GTS, good question.
But he might be a nice person to put around the table. So, but then I think our churches, they can help provide the information to families when they're showing up the need.
I like the idea of a church because it's also a protected place. One of the things that came up during the migrant meeting that really stuck out with some of our YAC members was also that sometimes when we do create these communities for families and then if we get a lot of migrants there, sometimes we get an ICE right there. And then all of a sudden that's no longer going to be a place that families feel safe that they can go to. But if we include a church in that,
We had the conversation at the last meeting, kind of towards the end of, I think at the end of the day, right now, we're just trying to develop that core group that is going to move forward with providing for the needs of our community. And then as we build that plane, we're bringing in a bolt, we're bringing in a screw, we're bringing in to continue to build it even better. Because I think in the past, a lot of ideas have come to fruition, a lot of ideas have come to the table, but they've never come to fruition. And so I think in the end, people then become very frustrated and they just don't come. And they don't want to be a part of this anymore because it's like the hamster wheel that just keeps spinning. And so a lot of times that happens when you just get way too many people at the table. And so if we get a core group of people that are like, no, we're doing this and we're gonna make this happen, then we start to throw the pass to the people that we want to include and we want to involve. Okay, thank you so much for your involvement. We'll be in touch and then continue to move forward. Because if you have 50 people at the table when you're doing these types of things, it's just not successful. Everybody has an opinion on how it should be, what should be included. And again, I would hope to shout that what this potential center looks like in year 1 is not what it looks like in year 5. and not what it looks like in year 10 or 15. It should be adapting to the needs of the community, and so on and so forth. So I think we just have to also, we're kind of looking for that commitment of, do you want to be a part of this as we move forward with it, or do you not? But I think we need to continue to have a lot of really strong conversations around, we're doing this, so who else do we need to talk to? Where can we have it? What should it look like? What's the funding? What's the budget? Those types of things, because we could talk about this for a year, or we could have this up and running in a year.
That was my thought. I mean, you're almost paralysis by analysis.
Yes.
You gotta get,
100%.
the need is now. So. Just don't get so bogged down in what we're looking at. I mean, you want to do it right. Obviously, but the need is now. It's not 2 years, 3 years down the road.
And I felt like we were really intentional with who we invited to this table. I mean, you're here because we want your input and we want you to be a part of this process. You have excellent resources and you have a great, vast knowledge of the community. And so I think just that too, like, we're asking you to be a part of that core group, I guess, as we move forward.
So would you come back to another meeting? Yeah, okay. Erin and Jason and Sarah have been our co-leaders of this conversation, so we'll put our heads together and plan that next agenda. And got some ideas and some additional people that you'd like to bring to the table. Anything else? Sarah, Erin, Jason, Jill? Jill? Yes. Any parting words, Sarah?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
No, thanks for coming. Sorry, I was late.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
If anybody finds a nose piece to sunglasses, it's mine.